S.H.Figuarts Dragon Ball Z Final Form Cooler was released on the 26th of August as a Bandai premium web exclusive and retails for 7,700 yen or $70 US. As always, this is the Japanese release and was purchased through the premium Bandai Japan website. However, Cooler was also available on premium Bandai US. Pre-orders are, of course, now closed and will ship out late next month. Now, I'll have to admit that I have a bit of a soft spot for Cooler, as the movie Dragon Ball Z Cooler's Revenge was my introduction to Dragon Ball Z way back when I was still a bright-eyed, uncorrupted youngin'. Cooler's Revenge was the first time I witnessed the then all-powerful, jaw-dropping Super Saiyan transformation, but the movie also introduced to me, still to this day, one of the coolest, pun intended, Dragon Ball villains ever created. Of course, in my opinion. So it goes without saying that this release, at least for me, is one of the most anticipated, long-awaited, sit outside my front door waiting for it to be delivered figure ever. So yes, this review may ever so slightly be a little biased, just a little, but in saying that, I may also judge it a little harder than other figures as it's a character I want to be closer to perfect than others. Now, taking a closer look at the figure in all its purple and white glory, the first thing that catches your attention is just how well built Cooler is. Not necessarily the tallest or biggest figure, but there is definitely quite a bit of figure here, and it's comparable to other big boys like Ginyu and Raccoon. Not quite as big as Full Power Broly, however there is a nice hefty weight to the figure and it definitely feels good in your hands, not hollow. The figure uses a mix of hard and soft plastics which makes posing Cooler all that more smoother. You can get Cooler despite the size and rather unique design in some pretty great poses. I'll go more into detail when we get into articulation, but the horns on his head or crest here are a softer plastic, not soft enough to say bend out of shape or warp over time, but it does let you pose Cooler without having to worry about stabbing yourself in the hands. The spikes on the forearm and on the back are a different story, as the plastics used is pretty sharp and hard, so you do want to be careful when handling it. This guy is a tank and it shows in every little sculpted piece on the figure, to the broad chest, the overly accentuated but extremely awesome looking white shoulder pads, huge arms which again are very well sculpted and offer quite a good range of movement for its size, and just look at those thighs. This guy definitely doesn't skip leg day. Anchoring the figure to the ground are these absolutely monstrous feet that are just made for pummeling Goku. Again, the sculpt work on the feet alone looks phenomenal, so much detail, toenails painted of course. Not forgetting Cooler's tail, a trademark of the Frieza family, has 2 points of articulation, a ball and hinge at the base, and another in the middle that gives you enough mobility to pose the figure in pretty much any way you'd want, except for having the tail flat out straight. Looking at the all-important head sculpt, and this noggin is an absolute beauty. There is a sense of depth when it comes to the way the horns are angled. It doesn't look flat and looks amazing at pretty much every angle. The white sections of his head have some fantastic line work sculpted in and really gives the design a lot of visual interest. The oval pieces on Cooler's forehead, like the other circular pieces on Cooler, have a beautiful gloss sheen to it. You can almost see your reflection, but the beautiful red eyes are what really capture that sinister, you don't want to mess with this guy look of Cooler. Overall, the sculpt work and proportions of the figure, the tapered V-shaped chest, and the tiny waist, coupled with the powerful looking legs, makes for a very dynamic silhouette. As for the coloring and paint application, the figure uses 3 main colors: purple for most of the torso, legs and arms, a darker almost indigo for the circular areas of Cooler's forehead, arms and legs. These parts again have a nice glossy finish to it, which is a great contrast between the matte finish of the rest of the body. and an almost grey flat white with a beautiful matte finish. I would say it's more on the light grey side. And light grey areas are molded colored plastic. The pieces do appear to be individual, which was quite surprising. It looks like the forearms, the lower legs are separate pieces with some slight darker shades of purple for shading to highlight the purple musculature of the figure, and just very, very subtle shading on the grey areas as well. I know it's kind of hard to pick up on camera, but there definitely is some color variation in the areas that would cast some kind of shadow. So I know some of you like the panel line look on the lines and creases of the grey sections of the body, but I prefer it just the way it is. There is definitely enough definition in the lines, casting slight shadows, giving the illusion of darker lines. Although if you did want to panel line those areas, those details, it would be easy enough to do so. Alright guys, so looking at articulation, Cooler has some really good range of movement, again for his size, and I guess for the design. I mean, you'd be thinking that these shoulder pads would get in the way, but because of the way that they slide up and down, I guess the engineering that Tamashii has put into this figure, they actually, you know, do get out of the way and don't hinder the articulation in any way. So looking at the head, Cooler's head, again, these pieces here are a softer plastic. His head does move quite far up, and his head and his neck, like all Figuarts figures, are independent pieces. But you know, even without the neck, Cooler does move his head quite far up, and they're great for, I guess, you know, flying poses. You know, you can get Cooler kind of in a forward facing flying pose like that, or you can, you know, get Cooler. I'm sure all of you guys have seen the movie, but you know, him charging at Goku like that. Really good stuff. Freezer, not Freezer. I keep calling him Freezer. Cooler. Sorry, guys. Cooler. Final form Cooler does bury his head pretty deep into his chest. As you can see, you can move these shoulder pads down and get him to rotate his head left and right, no problems. You get a bit of head tilt also there. Very expressive stuff. Looking at his shoulders, we get these huge butterfly joints here. I don't know if I'm showing that really well. I'm just going to move his head off to the side there. But you get these huge butterfly joints, and you have the shoulder pads, which are on, I guess, hinges that allow the shoulder pads here to move up and down. So when you bring his arms up, and they go past 90 degrees, they don't get in the way. When you have Cooler in a more neutral stance, you can bring those shoulder pads down as well. So some pretty good engineering there by Tamashii. Really nice stuff. We have swivels there at the upper bicep, double jointed elbows, really good range of motion there. And of course you have swivel and hinges there at the wrist. Now moving on to the torso, Cooler is broken up in three pieces. We have the upper torso, the ab piece there, and we also have the crotch piece as well. So those pieces here, the upper and the crotch, they are attached via ball joints together with that ab piece. So you're going to get some really good range of motion here, and you have enough clearance there at the upper torso to, accommodate for all that movement. It doesn't look odd either, because it's like Cooler's wearing, this armor. I know it's not armor, it's a part of his body, but it definitely doesn't break up the nice silhouette that this figure does have. So yeah, you can get Cooler to crunch forward with just his upper torso that much, but you can bring it down even further if you use that lower crunch there as well. And you've got the white areas almost touching the crotch there. But that's pretty good. Forward facing ab crunch there. Cooler does bend back about that much. And of course you do get obviously side to side rotation, tilt, and the same for the lower torso as well. Just really good. Midsection articulation there, and you've got his crest coming off. All right, there we go. But looking at the leg articulation, Cooler can do these splits about that much, and that's pretty good, I think. He can kick forward this much. Unfortunately, Cooler can't kick back because of the way that the crotch piece here is sculpted. So no backward movement. We do get upper thigh swivel, double jointed knees, and because the feet are pretty much, large ball joints with hinges, much like the wrist joints here, you can get Cooler to get some pretty nice ankle tilt there. You can get him to bend his feet down and up. No toe articulation, of course, but you do get an extra pair of feet, some clenched feet, so there's no problems there. Last but not least, we get the tail. And as I mentioned, the tail is on a ball hinge that attaches to the base there. So again, up and down. Let's get that to focus. Up and down. Rotation there. Side to side. And it's the same thing here at the middle of the tail. So up and down, side to side rotation, side to side movement. Pretty good articulation there for the tail. But yeah, I'm just overall really satisfied with how this figure was, I guess, engineered and put together. Some really fun articulation going on for Cooler. Good stuff, Tamashii. Well done. Now for the accessories, we get quite a few hands to go along with the figure. All hands are like the rest of the figure beautifully sculpted, and all the fingernails are painted as well. We get 2 fists, 2 sets of open palm hands, just so expressive. You can probably use these for pretty much anything you want. Another set of open palm hands that let you recreate Cooler's final trump card move in the movie, the Supernova. And let's not forget the trademark death beam / pointing hands as well, which all members of the Frieza family should come with. Unfortunately, no death beam included this time. And where would Final Form Cooler be without some Goku pummeling feet? Yes, we get 2 sets of feet, a set of regular standing feet, and another set of, well, for grabbing or I guess smashing Goku's head into the ground. Luckily for the design team, at Tamashii, Final Form Cooler has a mouthguard design for the head. And to top it off, Cooler's eyes are pupilless, which means you could probably get away with just 1 head. However, Tamashii were gracious enough to include this little beauty, an extra head without the mouthguard. That honestly we only saw like 20 seconds of screen time of, but they did include it, and boy does it look menacing. I love the details on the mouthguard head, but the smirk on this alternate head is just beautiful. So I feel that Final Form Cooler is going to be one of those grail figures for future collectors, much like how the first movie Broly is for me. Pre-orders everywhere are now of course closed, and prices on the secondary market have already doubled for this guy. And being a web exclusive, the rule is of course no reissues, unless Tamashii decide to go for the first movie Broly route and release Cooler as a repaint in some more anime-esque colors. Possibly a golden final form Cooler could also be an option, but I don't really see that happening anytime too soon. So I guess what I'm trying to get at is that this is a figure you'll definitely want in your collection. Yes, that might just be my fanboy self singing the figure praise because of what the character means to me personally. However, objectively speaking, this really is an amazing figure, not just aesthetically but functionally as well. The figure has some pretty great engineering, giving you some of the best articulation for a relatively big figure. Heck, I'd even go as far as saying some of the best articulation out of any of the Dragon Ball figures. Couple that with some pretty expressive hands, feet, and a fantastic extra head, and I think you've got a top 10 figure of the year material here. I absolutely love this figure, and it will definitely be at the top of my list of best figures in 2021. Yes, I know there aren't any effects included with the figure this time around, and once again it is a Bandai web exclusive, but there is no denying just how well executed this release is. I just hope Tamashii follow this trend in giving us not only characters from the main series, but also characters from the movies as well. I'd really like to see a Turles next or a Lord Slug, as we definitely need more Namekians. Come on Tamashii, make it happen. But what movie characters would you like to see Tamashii tackle next? What's your favorite Dragon Ball movie? Let me know in the comments. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the review. Thumbs up and comments are always appreciated. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Have a fantastic weekend, guys. Stay safe, keep healthy, and as always, yoroshiku.